Hi, my name's Chris Diaz. This is another video about some MIDI pedals that I made, and these I did a video of these already that's on my channel, and I do a demo of how they work, and I think I put a link in there of me using these pedals on some gigs. There's a band I play in where I play bass, and I use these to play some keyboard parts with my feet as I'm playing bass. So I showed a video of this in operation. I wanted to show the insides of it and what all makes it work. And just a couple quick notes. This enclosure I got from a place in Cleveland called HGR. Really cool place that sells industrial surplus, and they sell a lot of mechanical stuff, but a lot of electronic stuff as well. And I found this enclosure there, and it was for some kind of optical measuring device, and I basically bought it just for the sake of using the enclosure. And what I did was I took the front panel, and it's aluminum, and I covered it with clear, or not clear, white contact paper, and then I re-drilled all the holes for all the foot switches. All of these are momentary foot switches, and then a few of these have an LED above them. So this whole thing I put together around 2008. I'm working on a newer version of it, but I'm going to open up the inside and show you what's in here, and hopefully this will be in a good position for the camera. Okay, let me move it over here a little bit. So it's kind of messy. I put this together kind of fairly quickly because I had to use it on some gigs. And what's inside here, if I go from left to right, is there's a power supply right there. Power coming into the unit is a like 9 to 12 volt DC wall supply. This is the board with a 5 volt regulator, 7805, which regulates it down to 5 volts, which powers everything else. And you can see inside the enclosure that was a punch out. These like two squares were punch outs for square push buttons, which were in here originally. So they're covered up with contact paper. So there's the 16 momentary switches. The switches are the heart of the whole thing is a 8051 microcontroller right here, which is fairly old technology, but it still works great for this application. And this is a board that I bought from a company, Techel Electronics. I think they're not in business anymore, but it was a really handy little board with a 8051 and then an EEPROM and address decoding. Really simple board, and that's kind of the heart of this unit. And then the 8051 has two 8-bit ports. I'm using one of the 8-bit ports to do all the scanning of the switches. So the switches are wired in like a 4x4 matrix, and the I/O lines from the one port go to this board right here. It might be hard to see, but there's a bunch of diodes on here. So it's like a switching matrix with diodes. And I'll probably put a schematic of this eventually. I found this circuit online just by doing a search for a 4x4 switch matrix. So basically all the foot switches go to this board, and what's on this board right here is not a whole lot of components, just some passive components for the MIDI out. And really the heart of the whole thing is this board here. So I'm using one of the 8-bit ports for scanning all the switches. The other port I use to turn on the LEDs and to do the MIDI data. And because the 8051 has a built-in UART, and the MIDI out is right over there. So there's a MIDI out jack, power in, and I think that pot right there is a contrast adjustment pot. The other thing that is kind of interesting is this whole unit has a 16:1 liquid crystal display, and the way I'm driving that though is with a board. It's actually tucked up right in there, and it's kind of fastened down. It's hard to see, but there's a really handy circuit. You can find it online. A bunch of people have done this, where you can take a liquid crystal display that normally has read, write, and I think it's read, write, reset, and then the 8 data lines. You can basically drive the display. Normally you'd have to use like 11 I/O lines or so. You can drive it with 3 lines using a TTL serial to parallel converter chip. I think it's a 74164. So that's what's on this board right here. And basically there's, from the 8051, there's only 3 I/O lines going to that board, and then that board hooks up to the display with this ribbon cable, so that one chip, and some software allows you to convert just a serial data stream into the parallel data that drives the LCD. So it's a pretty handy circuit, and I like it a lot. I'll be using that in some other projects as well. So that is pretty much an overview of the pedals, and this has kind of been beat up a little bit. I use this on a number of gigs, and I'm going to post a video of like kind of a new and improved version of this, which I plan on eventually selling. And but this was the original prototype which I made, and if I slide this over here, there's a MIDI sound module right here that I think it's MIDI Art. I bought this on Musician's Friend a bunch of years ago, and it's just a really nice basic MIDI sound module. It has all the general MIDI sounds in it, and I've been finding some really cool modules which are available that will give you the 128 MIDI sounds. And I also found this really cool kit from a company called Zeppelin Labs, and I want to talk about that one as well. It's a MIDI in to like just analog audio out sound module, which is pretty cool. So I'm working on incorporating that with these pedals. So just a quick overview of that. Hope you like it. Thanks for watching. Bye.